We've already gone over the Birds of Prey team on Scooby Doo, which in my opinion was pure fun with some random slight disrespect towards Huntress on the side, because for some unknown reason they decided to exclude her from the description and just call her Black Canary's and Batgirl's teammate. We also talked about the JSA being in Scooby Doo, which was also really fun, but far more deep than expected. Some commenters even said maybe it went too far in that direction. For a book intended for kids, it included some things that were a little bit out there. For example, they mentioned Vandal Savage have a very, very Nazi speech and also incorporate Nazis into the plot. Which I do agree, I think it would work better for a teen book, but I did still like the actual comic. But now it's time for Black Lightning. This is issue 46, or like I said before, if you're looking for these digitally, they were separated into 2 issues, thinking it was better for younger readers. Meaning if you want to find this issue digitally, you have to look for issues 91 and 92. This issue starts with the Scooby Gang at Garfield High School. They're talking to the students about their adventures. Afterwards, they would talk with a teacher named Jefferson Pierce about how it's important that the students of Suicide Slum know that just because their neighborhood has a pretty bad rep doesn't mean they can't get a good education. However, that is, in my opinion, kind of weird due to the fact that the Scooby Gang doesn't get paid, live in their van, and are also young adults or kids. So why are they the ones giving this talk? Because they don't get paid, do they? It's unclear why they're the ones giving this lecture about how important education is, considering the fact that they themselves are technically kids and or young adults who aren't in school, don't get paid, don't have jobs, and live in a van. I don't know. Or maybe they do get paid and they have jobs, they don't live in a van, but typically they are driving around the country all the time in their van, not really staying in one place, so are they living in the van? Anyways, they end up hearing something going on. They run down the hall to see a group of boys who are part of the 100, a gang in the comics who is typically written as more or less a crime octopus whole idea that is an organization. Here they're written in more or less a street gang type of manner that typically are affiliated with teenagers and young adults, rather than the organized crime like they are in mainstream comics or in the Black Lightning TV show. Then comes a group of ghost mobsters, showing them to threaten the young criminals. Everybody goes running. Scooby and Shaggy end up hiding in a locker, peeking their heads out looking at the ghouls. But then Jefferson comes dressed up as Black Lightning, while Daphne references Lightning and Thunder, Black Lightning's daughters. Well, they also seem to make a black don't crack joke, also someone with Latino skin, I confirm we don't crack either. They end up going after the ghosts, only for them to go missing when they turn the corner. Afterwards, we notice that Black Lightning also kind of slips up when he refers to Fred as Fred. And then also another student notes that he has the same voice as his teacher, which makes sense because a lot of times characters don't change their voices when they become a superhero. Which I like that they make a reference to that, because a lot of times, when you think about it, how does not anybody ever recognize the voice of a character in comics? Well, Batman does use a voice modifier. Superman doesn't. Wonder Woman doesn't. Spider-Man doesn't. It's a little thing that I think a lot of people just kind of like ignore, so I like that they reference that in this comic. Black Lightning talks about Tobias Whale and Hiley's 100 and needs to defeat him because he's brought the gang war into their high school, and also believes that he might be behind the ghost. Black Lightning sees that the Scooby Gang is planning to investigate Tobias too, and decides if he can't talk them out of it, then they should work together. And similar to how in the Birds of Prey comic, when they teamed up with the Scooby Gang, Black Lightning decides they need some kind of disguise, bringing them to Taylor Peter Gamby, and in like the Birds of Prey story too, they all get code names. Fred is Blue Funk, Daphne is Purple Haze, Velma is White Rabbit, Shaggy's Mellow Yellow, and Scooby is Brown Bomber. Scooby? Now, if you don't know what the Brown Bomber is, I'll just give you a quick summary. You see, in the 70s, DC wanted to incorporate more diversity in their comics. So, the idea was pitched to finally have a black superhero due to the fact that Marvel had multiple black superheroes at this time. So they decided the idea of the Brown Bomber. He was going to be a white man who was extremely racist and a white supremacist who would turn black and still be a white supremacist. What? He was also intended to be a superhero, meaning their idea of finally incorporating more diversity in their comics was by having a white supremacist superhero. Am I the only one who sees the irony in how just effed up that is? Now, Brown Bomber, the concept of the character would eventually come back because it didn't obviously happen in the 70s due to the fact that it got just canned almost immediately for obvious reasons, but the pitch got actually pretty close to happening. So luckily it didn't, and instead we got Black Lightning, a character in my opinion is amazing, rather than the racist Brown Bomber story. And like I said, the concept of Brown Bomber was later reused, however in a less racist light. Also, the characters like Vixen and Black Lightning who are involved are also African American and also react to his abilities like one would react to his abilities. So I presume that's the reference being made here. I mean, it obviously is, but maybe it was a little bit too far of one, because I feel like if a kid was curious, they might Google it and they might be seeing stuff I don't think a parent wants their kid to see. However, of course, maybe I'm just being sensitive about it. But personally, I feel like that reference to a white supremacist character might have been a little too much for a kid's book. The group goes to find Tobias, who Black Lightning easily takes out, but Will explains it wasn't him behind the ghost. They go back to Gamby's tailor shop, where Velma finds a ghost suit, which Peter recalls having sold to a couple people beforehand, which he didn't think to bring up beforehand, which even Black Lightning calls him out on because they were talking about the ghost in front of him, and he didn't think to mention this. Now, I know this is plot convenience, so I don't really care that much that he just somehow forgot, because personally, I understand that they needed that to happen. However, I do find it funny that Black Lightning calls him out for it, which in my opinion makes this little error funnier in the writing. They end up making a trap to find the ghost by faking a 100 sighting, revealing that the ghosts were actually students who wanted to help scare off the gang. But then Tobias shows up, which Velma tricks into touching a locker, which Black Lightning then hits with lightning, killing him. I'm kidding, he just knocked out, but he probably will die later. However, it is funny to me because it does seem like they had the intention to kill him. Like, it literally seems like Velma and Black Lightning were intentionally trying to kill him, which we know didn't work out, but it feels like they're kind of disappointed that it didn't. Like, we don't see them be disappointed about it, but it definitely comes across like they're attempting to actually murder him. Regardless, I found the story pretty fun. Black Lightning comes across as a little clumsy in his secret identity, which was a detail I liked, because while he's of course smart, he's not as smart as Batman, where he plans everything out. He didn't make it obvious that he was Jefferson, but rather than he just slipped up when Fred was in danger and he said his name out loud. And he was also trying to protect children, so in my opinion, it made sense that he would just let it get away from him. He also beat Tobias Whale in a hilarious fashion, because, like I said, it came across like he was trying to murder him. Which, like I said, probably was not the intention, but does come across that way. However, when it comes down to the Scooby Gang, really, Velma was the only one who really did anything. Well, the others were in the background, which I'm not complaining, because I think Velma and Black Lightning teaming up is a cool idea, with them outright trying to murder somebody. However, while I think you of course need Scooby around, I think they should do something similar to how in the Birds of Prey team up, they only use a part of the gang, with Fred and Shaggy having been left behind. This time I would have focused on Velma, Scooby, and Fred, since Shaggy and Daphne barely had any lines. Especially Shaggy. Shaggy in this issue really felt like a background extra. In fact, I'm pretty sure the kids who were the ghosts had more to say than Shaggy did. Anyways, that's it. Like always, please like, subscribe, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye!